Bold for Christ YouTube channel here. Today I had a conversation with a young man, 25 years old, and it was pretty good because he was interested in hearing what I have to say. I have kind of a gray beard here, so I look kind of old. I'm 49 years old, and he had some questions, and I was happy to help him out. And one of the things he asked me was um, how to invest. Where should he invest money in the stock market or other areas? And I said, okay, so three main areas of investment: oil, electric, and gold. And rotate through these. Whichever one is the lowest, buy it. And as as it increases, as it gets high, like so, let's say I remember in 2020, oil got down to zero. At the time of COVID, oil went to zero. So, for instance, that'd be a great time to buy oil. As it recovers and the price goes up, sell it and buy which of the other ones are at their lowest. And just basically cycle through oil, electric, and gold. Oil, electric, and gold. If you want to add another sector to it, that's okay. But the idea when investing is keep it very, very simple. Keep it simple. Invest in things that are tangible. He asked me about Bitcoin. I said I would stay away from Bitcoin because there are so many digital currencies. I have no doubt that digital currency is the wave of the future. No doubt about it. The question is, which digital currency will end up on top? Which digital currency will be the worldwide go-to currency? And there are just so many of them. I don't know. How many are there? Dozens, hundreds, thousands? I don't know. There are so many digital currencies that you're probably going to get it wrong. The powers that be are going to choose which digital currency is going to end up supreme. And if you don't have that one, well, you lose out. All the rest of them end up at zero. Plus, that's something that is very easily controlled by people in the background. Not that oil can't be controlled, not that gold, not that electric, not that these other things can't be controlled, but it's so easy to control something that's all digital, that doesn't really even exist. That's just basically numbers on a computer screen, right? So anyways, that was my advice to him. And then we were talking about like relationships, and I gave him some advice. I said, here's what I would do if I were your age, if I could go back and do things different. I would not marry a woman my own age. My wife was younger than me, 6 years, I think, but I would look for a woman that was at least 10 years younger. And he was like, why is that? I said, think about it. Do you want to be taking care of an 80-year-old woman when you're 80? Or would you rather have a 70-year-old woman taking care of you? He's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, I'm going, and I told him, I said, the world teaches us that having more than one wife is a burden. Like, it's expensive to take care of a wife. I'm like, that's not the way it's supposed to be. A woman's supposed to be your helper, your helpmate in life. And the more wives that you have, the better your household can actually function. You can have a wife teaching the children. You can have a wife cooking and cleaning. You can have a wife running your business. You can have a wife working, the garden. And so one of the ways to accumulate wealth, I was telling him, is to have multiple wives. It's a way you can have many, many children. You can basically have a kingdom. You can start and build a kingdom. He was very interested in this, and I told him, he was like, well, what about, he asked me a question about the women having, more than one husband. I said, no, you got to understand. God never intends for a woman to have more than one man. A woman is only supposed to have one man her whole life. But it's okay for a man to have more than one woman. And his wives are actually called sister wives, and they work together and they work in conjunction one with another. And he was like, well, how do you get a girl to buy into that? And I said, well, basically, you're just upfront and honest about everything. If you're dating a young lady, First of all, you never fornicate, you never commit adultery, you never lust, okay? Why do you need to? If you've got 3 or 5 or 7 wives, you don't have to fornicate. You don't have to commit adultery. You don't have to lust. That's what even God said to David. David had 8 wives and 10 concubines, or 7 wives and 10 concubines. And when he committed adultery with the Hittite's wife, Bathsheba, God said, I would have even given you more. Like, you committed this horrible sin. You even had this man murdered, Uriah the Hittite. And you already had all these wives and concubines, and I would have given you more had you asked, right? And I said, so this is a way you root out a bad woman. If she's jealous, if it ever comes up about having other wives or other girlfriends or whatever, you be open and honest and upfront with you. Say, yes, I do have other girlfriends, or yes, I intend on it. If she gets mad or jealous and leaves you, you just eliminated a bad apple. He goes, that's true. He goes, I know guys who the men are running around and sleeping with other women, and the wives just stay at home and put up with it. I go, I know. Believe it or not, that's probably a good wife. Unfortunately, this man's an idiot and doesn't realize what he has, and he's going to fornicate with a woman that's probably fornicating with other men, and he's going to, do this whole horrible thing that's horrible for the family structure, right? Where he doesn't have to. He's got a wonderful wife. He could just have another wife, build another room, have another 2 wives, because his woman is a good woman, and she's going to understand and accept that and be fine with that. And so that's how you eliminate, I was telling him, that's how you eliminate bad apples. You right out front with it. When you meet a young lady, and my sons, if you're listening, this is for you too. You meet a young lady, it comes up about girlfriends or whatever, bam, yes, I have other girlfriends. Yes, I intend on having other girlfriends. Here's the thing, do not fornicate, I told him. Do not commit adultery. Do not lust. I said, fornication is when you have sex with a woman and you don't stay with her the rest of your life. Adultery is when you sleep with another man's wife. Lust is when you imagine sleeping with another man's wife. Okay? It's also covetousness, right? These are things God warned us about. See, a woman is the property of a man. When a man has sex with a woman, that woman becomes his property. And when you have sex with that woman, you're with another man's property. You're with something that belongs to another man. So I explained this all out to him, and he was enlightened by this. And then I told him, I said, you don't have premarital sexual relations with this woman, and what that's going to do, that's very key, okay? That's very key, because what that's telling her is you can be trusted. You meet a young lady, you're dating her for 2 years before you get married. You never ever pressure her for sex. Never once. You stay respectful, you keep your distance. You don't do anything more than holding hands, all right? When that beautiful day comes and you lay her down on your bed and you consummate your marriage, okay, she will trust you forever. You will never have a problem with her at all. She already knows that you're open to having other wives or other girlfriends. She knows she can trust you. She doesn't ever have to worry about anything that you do. And when the day comes, when you find another soul that you care about and you want to take care of and you want to be her head, you bring her home. You can already be married to her and say, honey, this is my other wife. Meet her. This is your new sister wife. She will help out. We will figure out who's going to take care of what. And your wife will be so happy to have somebody to take some of these chores or half the responsibility off of her shoulders. And so these are the things I was explaining to this young man. He was enlightened by it. I got to say a lot of things. And I always like that, when young people take interest in what older people have. And I'm not old. I look old, but I'm not old. I have a gray beard, so a lot of people think I'm grandpa, but I'm 49. I mean, to a 69-year-old, I'm very young, to a 60-year-old, I'm still in my prime. I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm past my prime. But to them, if they could go back, there's things they would teach me and tell me, right? So anyways, I want to say this. If you are a man that says, I just want my one wife, I love my one wife, hey, that's a beautiful thing. More power to you. More power to you. Excuse me. There's not a problem with that. Nowhere in the Bible does God condemn a man for having only one wife. Okay? He also, nowhere in the Bible condemns a man for having more than one wife. King Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. God never condemned him for that. He got condemned because he chased women that had foreign gods. He married women that prayed to statues and, would, in our day and age, like a parallel to that, be like women that do Christmas, right? Or do Easter, pagan holidays. He married pagan women, essentially, is what he did. And that angered God. And for that reason, God stripped the kingdom from him. And his bloodline was taken from him too. So anyways, not a problem having one wife. Not a problem having more than one wife. Okay? It's a great way to build wealth. You can increase your coast. You can have many children. Gideon had 50 or 70 sons. Yeah, they were all killed by one of his sons. That's a tragedy. But you know what? In this day and age, man, in a monogamous society, we murder so many million babies through abortion. Homosexuality is running rampant. Look at all the things that's happening. The government's destroying cities. The government's doing these false flag events. I mean, this is what monogamy has brought us, right? I believe God could be restoring his kingdom, his nation of Israel, since 1973. It's been 51 years, I believe. Abortion has been murdering, how many? I think it's like 50 million, or that's some astronomical number of babies murdered in this country, right? I think God's getting the last laugh. I think he's opening up eyes of men, showing them that, hey, this is not condemned in the Bible. This is an acceptable way of living in these latter times. God's calling some people out to do this. I know there's a community of primarily darker skinned people right now that are doing this. And the men are having multiple wives and they're reproducing and they're reproducing. And I say, go for it. The reason I say go for it is their race has been diminished by abortion, by Satan, by Margaret Sanger, by Planned Parenthood, has diminished their race. And here God's raising these men up to take on multiple wives and have dozens and dozens of children. I say, praise the Lord. They say that they're a tribe of Israel. I'm not going to argue with them. There were 12 tribes of Israel. You have Judah, right? You have the Levites, you have Benjamites, and then you have all the others, right? Scattered around the world. Hey, who am I to say that one of the 12 tribes wasn't made up of melanated people with darker skin? I believe I could be of one of the tribes of Israel. My family is of Amish descent. I think it's entirely possible that the Amish community somehow, some way derived from the nation of Israel. There could be, Hispanics could be of the nation of Israel. Different types of people. Asians could be of the nations of Israel. People all around the world could be of the nation of Israel. And God is waking them up. And God's restoring his kingdom and preparing them for the New Jerusalem, right? So this is something that, hey, if God's not calling you to do it, stay away from it. Don't do it. It's got nothing to do with you. This is for God's people. I believe God's calling me if he wants to restore me to that. I'm ready, willing, and able. I'm not going to fornicate. I'm not going to commit adultery. I'm not going to lust. But if God wants to bring me a wife or 2 wives or 3 wives, I am ready, willing, and able to do this if that's what he chooses for me. And I was telling this young man, if I could go back and be your age and do it over, these are the things I would do. Marry a younger woman, 10 years, 20 years younger. Marry a younger woman. Plan on having multiple wives. Plan on having multiple girlfriends. Don't sleep with your girlfriends. Don't fornicate. Do it right. But there's nothing wrong with having multiple girlfriends, right? Preparing them to marry you, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. A man can have multiple women. One man, and 10 women can have 1,000 children, if I'm not mistaken, in like 10 years. But one woman with 10 men, the most children she could have in 10 years is probably like 10. If she has some twins, maybe 20. Okay? It's not meant to be. A woman's not meant to be with multiple men. A man is meant to be with multiple women. God, I think, had this. This is something that he used to grow his nation of Israel through Jacob. Jacob had 4 wives that we know of. He had other concubines because we know his eldest son slept with one of his concubines. And then he had 12 sons. All those sons had multiple wives, and they literally grew into a nation so big that when the thousands and thousands of them went to Egypt, Jacob was still alive. He took a whole nation to Egypt. Okay? And then they produced, and then a whole nation left Egypt 400 years later. Okay? And then around 50, this was a normal thing around the 1500s, and then all of a sudden it became this taboo thing, right? Well, now God's opening the eyes of men again all around the world and showing them this is a real thing. This is a possibility. And God has put it on many men's heart to restore the kingdom. So this message can be for young men out there, okay? If you don't like what I'm saying, fine, stay away from it. It's not God's will for you to do it. Okay? You're not part of his plan. That's fine. I don't care. I don't care if you only have one wife. Great. Leave more wives for the rest of us. Okay? Another thing is, in this world, there are so many women and children without head coverings. So many women and children without head coverings. If you're the one godly man in a town full of heathens and pagans, right? Where are the women going to go if they start to get saved? They need a head covering. They need a godly head covering. You're going to send them to marry pagan men? Heathens? Because you can't have more than one wife? No. Take them on. If they've repented of their sin and God's called them out of that, take them on. If there's a war and all the men get sent off to war and they all die, I'm not saying take the women of married men. No. But the men go to war and they die. And there's all these women available without coverings. Be their covering. Help them. Women need instruction. Women need structure. They need a man. They need a man, okay? And if you happen to be the one man on an island with 10 women, hey, do what you got to do. Repopulate the world, okay? All right, guys, God bless.